This was originally going to be just a trailer review, but due to recent happenings, I've decided to make it more than just a trailer review. Here's a timestamp if you want to skip to what's happening and why people are angry. Trailer opinions. The trailer was alright. Even for the Fontaine trailer, I didn't really get too excited for it, so my reaction to this one isn't too surprising for me. I was slightly hoping we'd get to see more of the world rather than just the characters, but oh well. The characters look cool, I guess. If Capitano gets the Senora treatment, I am going to be so upset. He's probably not playable because they didn't announce his voice actor. I'm hoping for one of two things. He isn't playable but doesn't die and is well written, or he is playable and well written. Unlike some people, I don't really mind characters getting along with the Traveler, and I do think people tend to over-exaggerate the amount of characters that are actually head over heels for the Traveler, but as long as Capitano is well written and isn't killed off, I'm good. Other than him, I'm probably getting Kanish, I think that's how you say his name, this character, and the Pyro Archon. Only those three for now. Chances are this list will most likely decrease, not increase. Solid trailer overall, but I can't wait for the actual 5.0 trailer. Also, this year the anniversary falls into the 0.0 patch rather than the 0.1 patch of other versions, which means more premos. That's basically all I have to say. It's not much. This video will be split into 3 parts. What is happening, what you can do to help, and what you shouldn't be doing. What is happening? Ever since Natlan, the Natlan teaser, came out, people have been very vocal about the utter lack of skin tone diversity in a region that is basically a mixing point of cultures, a mixing pot of cultures that tend to have a variety of skin tones, leaning more towards the darker side. Genshin has always had a whitewashing issue. Even in countries that have primarily light-skinned individuals, most people aren't paper white. Most people have undertones and tans, but most Genshin characters don't have that. And this issue has been amplified by how they went about designing the Sumeru and Natlan characters. When people were upset about Sumeru, they were told to wait for Natlan, and now that Natlan is here, nothing has really changed. We only have one actually dark-skinned character, Iansan, and she was shown for a few seconds at most in the recent trailer, and something tells me she's going to be a 4-star, maybe 5-star, with a bad kit. Ring a bell? The most egregious case of this is Olono. Despite the English spelling, other languages spell it with an L rather than an R, so I'm just gonna call him that, which is in reference to a Yoruba deity. The Yoruba people are a tribe in Nigeria with a mostly dark population. So why on God's green earth is this man white? Maybe you can make the argument that Latin Americans come in all shades, so technically a light-skinned Latin American character isn't completely out of the question. Weak ass argument, but an argument nonetheless. But an African character, specifically a Yoruba character, he has the same name origin as Iansan. Why aren't they the same shade, or at least similar shades? And don't get me started on every other character being a whitewashed version of their name origins. Unlike Sumeru, where the designs had cultural references, most of Natlan's characters are wearing little to no cultural clothing, and they're replaced with modern one instead. If this is wrong and someone has made an entire thread of like, oh, the cultural references in Natlan characters, then please someone tell me, because I've been on Twitter for a while and I haven't seen anyone do something like that. And when Sumeru came out, I saw a bunch of them telling people that, oh, not every Sumeru character is bad, but for Natlan, I haven't seen a single one, so maybe I've just missed them. Most Natlan characters are wearing little to no cultural clothing. This isn't Zenlong Zone Zero, mihoyo. Genshin is a mostly historical fantasy, so where did the mostly modern designs come from? People are rightfully upset. If you're not going to at least represent their clothing right, maybe leave their names alone and do something else. Genshin is trying to represent many cultures in its world, and it does some really well. Credit where credit is due, they do some well, but they butcher others. For a company that has been shown to do a lot of research when it comes to world design, lore, and music, even going as far as to hire culturally accurate musicians to play their themes, it is nothing short of disappointing to see what they have done, what they have chosen to do with the Natlan characters. Honestly, I wasn't expecting them to do much, but I wasn't expecting it to be this bad. I honestly thought they were just gonna make every character tan instead of actually dark-skinned. Like, oh, here's a tanned character. Close enough, I guess. But even that they didn't do. What can you do to help? I will link a petition in the description below. I've already signed. It's the easiest thing you can do. It just takes a few minutes, less than 3 to 5 minutes to sign it. If you would like to do more, however, you can find more information about why these sort of things bother people by listening to the voices of the people whose cultures are being disrespected on Twitter and maybe Reddit. Do be careful though, there are some people who are just using those places to be racist to others because they can't fathom the idea that people care about their cultures enough to be angry when a company's profiting off of it. And if you're someone of this culture and you don't care, that is fine. But you not caring doesn't mean other people aren't allowed to care. So before you go, oh, I'm from so-and-so country and I don't think it's that deep, so everyone else shouldn't think it's that deep either. Realize that different people care about different things, and what you might think isn't too big of a deal might be a big deal to someone else, especially people who are sick and tired of having their culture used in media without representing the people of said culture. Yes, MiHoYo is only taking inspiration, not making an adaptation, but is it so hard to add people of color into their games? If skin tone isn't such a big deal, why not just add them? It doesn't matter, right? Just add them then. What you shouldn't be doing. This part is for both people who care and don't care. If you care about what is going on and you want to spread awareness, that is perfectly fine. More power to you. What you shouldn't go about doing is attacking the VAs that voice the characters and or artists who make art with the character's current skin tone. That will do nothing but make you look bad and give people more reasons to not listen to you. No one likes being called a racist or other things for something they might not even know about. And no, just because it's all over your Twitter page doesn't mean it's the same for everyone else. And not everyone spends their time scrolling on Twitter. I'm quite confident that a majority of the fandom has no idea this is happening. Also, not everyone is bothered by the lack of skin tone diversity. Some people just have better things to do. There are worse things going on in the world, like the bombing in Palestine and the abuse of labor in Congo and many more other bad things. So to some, something like this is just not the most important thing for them to focus on. And you never know what is like the mental state of someone else. Maybe they're going through a rough patch in life. So this might not be important to them, and that is fine. Now, if you're someone who doesn't care and think all of this is stupid and people are being dramatic, you can have those thoughts, but keep them to yourself. Unless you are someone who is inherently bothered by the idea of having melanated characters in your waifu and husbando simulator, this shouldn't bug you to the point where you feel the need to bully others that care. Skin tone doesn't matter, I hear you say. Okay, if it doesn't matter, then it shouldn't matter if Hoyoverse decides to make the characters more melanated. So what's the problem? MiHoYo being forced to give people proper representation shouldn't bother you. Most, if not all of those characters would look better with their proper skin tone. Almost as if they were made for that skin tone but later changed. Conspiracy theory aside, I do think we as a community should stand together to help others in the community feel properly represented. Yes, you are allowed to not care. If I am being perfectly honest, I don't care that much either. I've had a rough year and I have worse things going on in my life than a colorist gacha company being a colorist gacha company. But just because you don't care doesn't mean that those that do are somehow wrong. And I believe it is fair to give voices to issues such as these because people deserve to be properly represented in the media that is literally profiting off of their culture. And lastly, you don't have to be from that culture that is being misrepresented to speak up about it. And assuming only woke white people would be offended by this is very stupid of you. Just because you don't care doesn't mean others don't. This goes for someone who's in the culture that's being misrepresented and doesn't care either. White people aren't the only people with opinions, okay? Just because someone, also, small tangent, just because someone speaks English on Twitter doesn't mean they're from America. The amount of times I've seen someone speak up about cultural issues in Genshin and the comment section is like, Americans are so obsessed with race. Just because they speak English doesn't make them American, you stupid fucking moron. A good portion of people speak English. Doesn't mean they're from America. Do you think only Americans use Twitter? You think only Americans know how to speak English? That's very fucking racist of you. Not gonna lie. Here's some predictions. I'm just gonna cut them off before you even try. Before anyone starts going on about, if MiHoYo made black or melanated characters, no one would wish on that. Or the same, only people who care about this are white activist girls from America. First of all, the whole no one will wish on melanated characters thing is just not true. That ideology is the mentality of the older generations, and racist fuckfaces. There have been multiple people on Twitter that are Chinese, Japanese, etc. speaking up about how this whole situation is unfair. I have full faith that if Hoyoverse made the Pyo Archon darker, but also good in the meta, people would wish on her, because whales will will on anything as long as they're hot and meta. She's already hot, being a dark-skinned isn't going to take away from that, and she will probably be meta, so her skin tone wouldn't be an issue. People wished on Candace for her C6 because she was good without Linkino. The only reason Dia didn't do well, her kit sucks ass, not because she had a darker complexion, even though in the grand scheme of things it really wasn't all that dark. A character's design, story, and most importantly, placement in the meta is what determines how well they will sell. MiHoYo obviously knows how to do all of that well, so they have nothing to worry about. Unless they have like higher ups telling them not to make characters darker, I can't think of one conceivable reason why they would go through all the trouble of researching environments, lore, names, music to match the cultures, but not make playable characters to match. This goes for Sumeru too. To everyone who's also about to type, Well, if you hate the game so much, why don't you just quit? Genshin is a beautiful game that means a lot to a lot of people. The game has a lot to offer, but just because people are being critical of the design choices doesn't mean they hate the game. They hate the design choice and lack of proper consideration for the people whose cultures they're getting inspiration from, not the whole game entirely. You can criticize media that you love as well. Genshin isn't perfect and we can't keep pretending it is. If you don't care, that's fine. Just move on. This doesn't affect you in any way. Go away. And even after all this, most people will continue playing because let's be honest, everything except the skin tones are probably going to be well researched and done decently well, which sucks because just changing the skin tones of the characters is the least they could do. It is literally the easiest form of representation out there, and it's the one MiHoYo refuses to do for some reason. The outrage for Natlan seems a lot more than the outrage for Sumeru, and it is well deserved. I hope all the boycotting, review bombing, not spending money, and getting petitions to get more attention on this issue will be worth it. Genshin is far from the only gacha game that does this. All of MiHoYo's games and numerous other gacha games suffer from these kinds of issues as well, and I hope we can move forward to a time where people of color don't have to worry about they themselves not being allowed to participate in their own culture in the media that is inspired and profiting off of them. Popular content creators like Dish and Zyrox are also speaking out about it, and many of the English VAs as well, which is good to see. Hopefully this time we can actually see some positive changes in the game. Natlan as a whole seems like MiHoYo is trying to do better, and I'm hoping they're trying to do better in the skin tone department, but we'll see. At the very least, this is the last region where they are taking from cultures that have melanated folk. Snezhnaya seems to be Russia and Italy based, so they can continue making their characters look like the colors of my wall, even though technically that's not completely accurate. If this makes you want to quit, that's understandable. I hope you not only find a game that does representation through their world and music just as good as Genshin, but also through their playable characters. Maybe check out Reverse 1999. It comes to mind, you can go check it out, and it's also made by an East Asian company, I think a Korean company if I'm not mistaken. I will double check and just put the correction on screen. So MiHoYo has even less of an excuse. If a smaller company can do it, why can't you, Hoyo? I will obviously continue playing the game, because like I said, as bad as it sounds, I don't care enough for it to hinder my enjoyment of the game. Am I disappointed? Yes. Am I surprised? Not at all. No. Does it change how much I enjoy the game? No, not really. But also, like I said, you don't have to hate a game to criticize it. I love this game, and I hope they learn from their numerous blunders. Also, I just want to say we're almost at 500 subscribers. Thank you so much for that. That's all I have for today. Subscribe, and see you whenever.